Good evening.
Okay.
I
Give
am
me 1
Esther
minute.
Javits, Adult Education Chair of, and here come a long name, Ezra-Habonim, Niles Township Jewish Congregation in Skokie, Illinois. Okay, with us is also our rabbi, Rabbi Weil, who is wearing 2 hats tonight. First as a rabbi and secondly as our Zoom operator. I would like to welcome the 3 congregations joining us tonight. Beth Israel in West Hartford, Connecticut. Jewish Federation of Ventura County in Ventura, California. And Emmanuel Synagogue in West Hartford, Connecticut. Welcome all. Before I introduce the speaker, let's talk about our rules tonight. Keep yourself muted all the time. And please send questions to me via chat, but not in general, but specifically to my name. And I will voice your questions as much as time permits. Okay, I will have a very short introduction about our speaker, just to make it fast. Our speaker is Dr. Mordechai Kedar, who is now quite a media personality. If you check YouTube, you can find him advocating for the State of Israel in 3 languages, in Hebrew, in English, and in Arabic, to many media outlets. He is a Sabra, born in Tel Aviv, served 25 years in IDF Military Intelligence, completed his PhD, and then taught for 27 years at Bar-Ilan University. His base field of study is Arab culture. Now he is vice president of NEWSRAEL, a service of news in English, and he is also a member of the National Public Relations Council that works with international media. That's it, short and sweet. Dr. Kedar, you can get started.
Thank you so much, Esther. And I thank the rabbi and all the congregations. For you, it's good evening. For me, it's early morning. Dear friends.
It's probably 3:30 in the morning?
3:40, actually, yes. Somebody has his phone or 2 phones open. It's echo.
Everyone, please. Thank you. I'll find them.
I think if everybody will be muted.
I got it.
Are we okay? I just have a little question. Since I didn't get the promotion for this evening, what was the topic which was announced? If you, Esther, can tell me.
Esther, unmute.
Okay. The topic is Israel's political system.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Most of you, if not all of you, my dear friends, you live in the United States of America. Today, not only today, it's already for months already, the United States is in the turmoil of the elections, which will take place in 4 months, a bit more from today. You have in general 2 camps, the Republican and the Democrat, and the system is like a pendulum. At one time it goes to the Democrats, another time it goes to the Republicans, just everyone can ask himself how many changes, not only between presidents, but between the parties, went through his lifespan. And this is what we call in political science. Okay. And this is what we call in political science bipartisan system. And it is very hard to predict, especially long in advance, who will win and who will lose. And I think until this very day, this is the situation in the United States. Here in Israel, the system is totally different. And sometimes it's hard for Americans to understand what happens here in Israel. First of all, in Israel, the whole country is one constituency. From Metula in the north, now it's evacuated, but in principle, from Metula in the north to Eilat in the south, everybody votes in the same group. For example, a party could have votes from both Metula and Eilat and everywhere in between. So it is one area of elections, no, not like states as it is in the United States. Secondly, we do not vote for the prime minister with the parallel of the president in your country. The prime minister was the head of the executive, is being elected by the Knesset with his government. We actually vote only for the Knesset, means to the parallel to the Congress and the Senate together. And the Knesset elects a government, gives it its confidence, and this is how a government can function. This is another big difference. But the biggest difference is the parties which I talked about are actually parties which represent parts of the social cake. You know, when you divide a circle, you have these cakes, the cake picture like charts, and every party takes a cake from the society. The voting is usually according to the platform of a party, but these parties represents sectors in the population. For example, people who, let's say, live in the cities, in Tel Aviv, for example, will more probably vote for the left, for the Labour Party, for Meretz. People who live in the periphery, like in Sderot, in Ofakim, will vote for Shas, because Shas represents Jews who originally came, or they or their parents or their grandparents came from Arabic-speaking countries like Morocco, Tunisia, Iraq. Religious people, modern Orthodox, will usually vote for or most of them will vote for what today is Atzionut Hadatit, the religious Zionism, while Haredim, ultra-Orthodox, will vote usually to the Haredi parties. The result is that usually people are loyal to the parties because they are loyal to the part of the society. Therefore, the system is not a pendular system. It doesn't go in fluctuations, big fluctuations. You can very easily, or much more easily, compared to the states, predict what will be the results of the next elections. However, the right in Israel, the right side, the right wing, are parties which emphasize the Jewish nature, the religious nature, the Haredi nature of the country, means of their part of the society, and usually people know very well what their agenda is, what their platform is. They believe in, most of them, in Eretz Israel Hashlema, means that Israel should be all the way between the river and the sea, not only for security reasons, which is much more consensual, but because of what they believe, that this is the promised land which God promised to us. And since people tend to be religious or conservative, their beliefs do take part in their considerations. While in the other side, you can see what we are calling the left. The left is characterized by people who are much more secularized, much more from Western countries, like people whose parents or grandparents or themselves came from Western countries, including Eastern Europe, what we call in general Ashkenazim, who tend much more to vote to the Labour Party and Meretz, which today apparently will be one party, in order to make sure that they pass the threshold, which is 2.5% of the votes. And this is actually the right and left in Israel. However, in the middle, there are enough, some people estimated by more or less 30% of the population, people who are not necessarily religious, means tend to be non-religious, yet they are not ideologically in the left. However, they want peace. They do not so much believe in Eretz Israel Hashlema, that Israel entirely, the land should be under Israeli control. And they are much more moderate in everything, yet they are not, let's say, living in dreams of kumbaya around the fire with the Arabs, as the Labour Party or the Meretz Party are leading. People are much more, let's say, connected to the situation, and the situation is well known today that most of the people around us do not want us here, and the war actually expresses this sentiment around us. But they definitely are not religious, or most of them are not religious, and their considerations are not sectorial religious considerations. And in addition to all this spectrum of Jewish parties, you can add the Arab parties, which are usually three parties. One is very small, but two others are passing the threshold. One is the Islamic Party, Ra'am, represented by Mansour Abbas, from the Muslim Brotherhood. And the other one is Hadash, means the Communist Front, which surprisingly, there are still people who believe in communism here in Israel, and they vote for this party. Most of them are Arabs, not all of them, because this party has also usually one Jewish Knesset member in the Knesset. So this is more or less the map of the parties, and people are usually loyal to the party which they voted in the past. The biggest changes are in the middle, in the center of the map, not in the sides, which are on one side religious, conservative, Haredi, and not on the others, the left side, which is human rights and political freedoms as expressed by Meretz and the Labour Party, but the non-religious who could sit with everyone, both in the right and in the left, because the agenda is good economy, good life, stability, and peace as much as possible with our neighbors, which recently showed that it's very hard to reach any peace with them. And this is actually the system. And because people are more or less loyal to their party, the pendulum which exists in America does not exist in Israel. People who are ideologically connected to their parties will continue, in most cases, to vote for these parties. And this is why, by the way, 3 years ago, we had, within a year and a half, we had 4 rounds of elections because people kept voting to the same parties, and the same parties which failed to shape a coalition, the Knesset, the first time, continued to fail in the second, the third, and only the fourth time came a coalition, which was very strange between some of the religious parties on the right side and the Muslim Brotherhood Party on the other side. And this is why this government could not resist for a long time, because it combined too many contradictions which could live together in one government only for a short while. What I'm talking about, the Bennett-Lapid government. Bennett, who represented a part of the right wing, which he took to a government with the Muslim Brotherhood. And because of this, people viewed him as a thief who stole their vote to the right in order to shape a government with the left, Lapid, and with the Islamic movement, which none of his voters expected it from the beginning. And this is why, in my view, Naftali Bennett actually lost the people, and I would be very much surprised if we will participate in the elections again. But who knows? People tend to forget in sometimes, especially in the center, because they are being caught with hopes, which politicians know very well how to raise. Yet when they comes to fulfill their promises, they not always can or want to fulfill those promises. And this is, I would say, in general, what happens here. Because of this situation, especially the big chunk in the middle, which can move to each side, what happens in the week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks between the elections has much influence on what people decide in the voting day. Because people's memory sometimes is short. And if, let's say, there is a war or terror attacks, as we witnessed years ago, right before the elections, it will push people to the right. Usually, this is the rule. People are more connected to the roots, to the Jewish roots, if they feel in danger. And this is the rule, I think, everywhere in the Jewish world. Whenever we sense a danger, could be compared to anti-Semitism today in the United States, people on one side are approaching the warm bosom of Judaism, and they get back to the community in order to feel secure with the community because of hatred, of Jew hatred, as they sense. Others, and I would suggest that they are minority, are leaving all the way. Means in order to get rid of Jew hatred, they get rid of their Jewish identity, Jewish clothing, Jewish kippah if they wore, or any other Jewish symbol, in order not to suffer from this Jew hatred. Yes, there
Can
are.
I interject a question as they come in? Or do you want them to be at the end?
I will speak like in another 10 minutes, and then we'll open the stage
floor
for questions. Okay?
Okay.
So the same thing is in here. What happened because of the war, which started 9 months ago, many people now are much more to the right. People discover their Judaism. People discover their belonging. People discover the warm bosom of the Jewish tradition, the Jewish religion in many cases, the Jewish being. Because when we sense that we are attacked because we are Jews and because our country wants to be the country of the Jewish people, and this is the reason why our neighbors attacked us in October 7th, and not to mention this was a holiday, this was Shmini Atzeret. So this pushed many Israelis who were presenting themselves as conservative. Now they would consider themselves more religious. People who were, let's say, disconnected with religion or less connected to religion, now they discovered their religion and they are more Jewish, more conservative thinking, and this might very possibly influence their vote at the end of the day or the day of elections. So the war apparently pushed the Israeli people to the right, and this is why the left does not try now to dismantle the Knesset, because the left is afraid that if there is elections today, they will lose big time because of this movement to the right because of the war. So this is also part of the considerations here in Israel, the timing of elections, because the timing does have influence, at least in the margin, which can make the pivot between the right and the left. Other things which do influence the Israeli political system is personalities. Netanyahu, as a person, is in very big controversy. On the right side of the political map, people view him as the best prime minister which Israel ever had, and therefore the time which he was serving as a prime minister is way longer than the next one in line in the longevity of his prime minister position. And after all, people are not stupid. If people vote for him or vote for parties which will make coalition with him, it means that he is popular, especially in the right side of the political map. On the other side, on the left, people hate him, and everybody talks about the files in court which are open against him, and his trial, which is all the time. The right wing are more than sure that these files are tailored by the left, because the judicial system is defined by people who are leaning to the left. And actually, this what happened in Israel, that the political system, as I described, is actually governed by the judicial system. In every democracy in the world, there are three authorities which are parallel to each other: the legislative, the judicial, and the executive. And they have checks and balances, but they are in the same level. What happened in Israel since the mid-90s, that the judicial system, little by little, became superior to the two others. Means the Knesset can legislate laws only as long as the court system allows this legislation. The government can implement policy only as long as the judicial advisor allows it. And the judicial system is the court system, the prosecution, and the judicial advisors, who are in everywhere, in the government, in every ministry, in every office, in every company which belongs to the government, and nobody, not even the people who were elected, like Knesset members, are allowed to make any decision without the consent of the Supreme Court and the court system. And this is something which there is nowhere in the world such a system. Some would call it juristocracy. And Aaron Barak, the judge who designed it and actually implemented it, although he is retired, he is every day in the Supreme Court. He has his office there. And everybody is more than sure that although the man is retired, he still controls everything behind the scenes. And you can see it because the struggle in Israel is also between the right and the left. The right want to be liberated from the hegemony of the judicial system, which is in most cases manned by people who lean to the left, and the left which wants to continue its hegemony over the state, although the left is a minority, as shown in the Knesset. Just to give you an example from today, there is a law in Israel which arranges the Israeli identity, means who can become an Israeli citizen and who is not. And unlike America, which every migrant could, with a known process, can get the American papers and become an American citizen, since Israel was created as a Jewish state or a state of a Jewish people, Jews can become citizens the minute which they come on Aliyah, for example, while others have to go through a process because they are not Jewish. Israel never gave Israeli citizenship to Arabs, especially Palestinians. This was the custom because we didn't want to allow the right of return in order to keep the Jewish nature of the country. This is the raison d'etre of this state. People applied to the Supreme Court years ago because it's not equal. If a Jew can receive the Israeli citizenship immediately and a non-Jew cannot, this is something which is against equality. So the Supreme Court decided that equality is more important than the Jewish nature of the country. And they forced the Knesset and forced the Ministry of Interior to give Israeli citizenship to Arabs, including Palestinians. The result is that in principle, even the Nukhba fighters of Hamas, who killed and raped and burned and beheaded Israelis on October 7th, can apply to be Israeli citizens. This is the result of, in principle, of what the Supreme Court decided today. And this is something which outrages at least 90% of the Israelis. At least. But the court couldn't care less, because for the court, equality is way above any other value, including Jewish values, and including the reasons for the establishing of the state. And this is, I would say, the internal, most important question which the next elections will be around. Will the Supreme Court and the judicial system continue to be above everybody else, or will they be parallel as it is in democracies? And just to remind you, these people are not elected. They are nominated to be judges by the Knesset and the committee, which is comprised of Knesset and the bar of the lawyers and the other bodies. They are not elected. This is why it is very hard to remove them, because they are not subject to elections. Yet, they impose their liberal, I would say even ultra-liberal agenda on everybody else, including the Knesset, which is supposed to represent the sovereignty of the people. But we, those who, or at least those circles who belong to the right, feel that they can vote to the Knesset, but there is another agenda which controls the Knesset, the leftist idea, the Supreme Court, which is still governed by Aharon Barak, who did not believe in the fact that Israel should be a Jewish state. And this is the struggle, or will be the struggle, in the next elections. And nobody really knows what will be the results because of the big chunk of the center, which can make the system lean either to the right or to the left, depends on the results of the elections. Netanyahu as a person is in controversy. The right wants him and the left hates him. And is again a question of the people. You cannot tell the people don't vote for a person because this is democracy. People vote for whoever they like. This thing, you can compare it to the court suing which Donald Trump is going through. As much as I read, many people will vote for Trump only because of this, what they consider to be a persecution of the court system. The same thing is in here. Netanyahu is viewed as somebody who, without any justification, was dragged to the court by the prosecution, which tends to adopt leftist agenda. And this is actually what pushes people more to the right, because of this, what they view as persecution by the left, which controls the court system and judicial system. So there are some, I would say, topics which are in common between the United States and Israel, yet there are many other differences, especially the fact that here in Israel, many, especially in the right, feel that they have to liberate the political system from the hegemony and the rule of the judicial system. This is, in very short, about the Israeli political map. And if there are questions, I will try to answer.
Okay. The first question came from the rabbi, and he says, did you say that Labor and Meretz are wanting to have kumbaya moments with Arabs around a campfire? Is that accurate? Both Labor and Likud have pursued peace with Palestinians and Arab countries. I think the whole issue of peace between us and Arabs has to be explained by you.
Okay, peace is translated immediately to what concessions you are willing to give. Means what the left has agreed already is, first of all, to divide Jerusalem and to give up on Jerusalem, at least the eastern part, which includes the Temple Mount and the Kotel Ma'aravi, which will have some agreements about accessibility for Jews, but it will be under the PLO only because the PLO shows, and this is the flag of for the PLO, and here they show the Temple Mount, and here in Arabic it says Al-Quds Lana. Jerusalem is ours. Since they insist on having Jerusalem as the capital of the Palestinian state, the left usually tends to agree to this demand and to allow the Palestinians to have their capital in Jerusalem. Yet, in the right side of the map, definitely nobody allows it. Nobody agrees to this because they know, the right knows that the Palestinians, not only they want Jerusalem, they also want the other side of the scarf, which is Palestine, from the river to the sea. And this is the same scarf. This is a scarf which is one thing. See, this is one issue. One side is Jerusalem is ours, as they claim, and the other side is Eretz Yisrael Hashlema, means the whole country is Palestine. And the Palestinians know that the connection, because if they succeed to have East Jerusalem, including the Temple Mount and the Kotel Ma'aravi, they will have the whole state, because Jews will run away from here, because without Zion, there is no Zionism. And Arabs and Muslims, especially the Palestinians, understand it much better than the Israeli left. Those who agree to give them East Jerusalem, for example. And this is a big difference between the Likud, who will never allow such a thing, and the Labour Party, which, especially now under the leadership of Yair Golan, who compared Israelis to Nazis a few years ago, and nobody will forget him, and nobody will forgive him for comparing us to Nazis. And this is now he is heading the combination of the Labour Party and Meretz. So this is more or less the difference, or the difference between the Likud and the left about peace. There are other questions of Judea and Samaria, which Palestinians want to establish a state. And especially after October 7th, everybody is afraid that the Palestinian state will turn into another Hamastan. Why? Everybody remembers what happened in January 2006. There were elections to the Palestinian Legislative Council, and Hamas won the majority of the seats of the Legislative Council of the Palestinian Authority. It can happen again and again. And this is how a Palestinian state, if established, will turn into a Hamas state because of the elections, which can repeat themselves. It already happened. Another thing we all remember, what happened in June 2007, when Hamas took Gaza over by force, and they killed Palestinian policemen and security personnel. It can happen again in Judea and Samaria, or in the Palestinian future state. So either by elections or by coup d'etat, a Palestinian state will apparently turn into another Hamastan. And October 7th, 2023 will repeat itself by the state which will be governed by Hamas. And this is the lesson which we learned from October 7th. And this is why those who today talk about a Palestinian state, people look at them as if they fell asleep on October 6th and never woke up ever since. Because today, everybody understands that the Palestinian state will turn into another Hamastan, and we see it by the polls being made in the Palestinian Authority, which time and again find that 70, 80, and sometimes even more percent of the people justify what Hamas did on October 7th. Justify what Hamas took over Gaza in 2007. Means the chance that Hamas will take the Palestinian state over by elections is very high. So who with the right mind will allow a Palestinian state right above us on the hills of Judea and Samaria? And by the way, this is a big machloikis, means difference between us and the American administration, which tries its best to resuscitate the Palestinian Authority in order to establish a Palestinian state, even though this Palestinian state will almost inevitably will turn into another Hamas state. But apparently not too many people care about this in the administration. This is what we feel. When their policies are shaped by people like Hadi Amer and Maher Baitar, who are as far as could be from sympathizing with Israel and the Zionist movement, we are not surprised. So this is more or less also something which is in difference between us, Israelis, or most of the Israelis, and the current American administration.
Okay, can I follow up? You mentioned Shleima, the wholeness of the land. How do you define the wholeness of the land? Does it include the West Bank and Gaza? What is the reason for the continued legalization of outposts in the West Bank? This is Rabbi's question.
No, I came many years ago with the only plan which can bring peace between us and the Palestinians, which is the Emirates solution. You can Google it and find it. In very short, the Arab world is divided roughly between successful states and failing states. The successful states are Kuwait, Qatar, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, 5 more Emirates united with Dubai and Qatar and Dubai and Abu Dhabi, Oman and Saudi Arabia, while the failing states are Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Sudan, Yemen, Libya, and potentially Algeria as well. What is the difference between the successful countries and the failing states? The successful countries are homogeneous society. And each and every one of them, which I mentioned, Kuwait and Qatar and Abu Dhabi and Dubai and Saudi Arabia, Oman, each and every one belongs to one clan. Kuwait belongs to a clan named Al-Sabah. Al is a clan. Al-Sabah. Qatar belongs to Al-Thani. Abu Dhabi belongs to Al-Nahyan. Dubai belongs to Al-Maktoum. Saudi Arabia belongs to Al-Saud, and so forth. On this other side, the failing states are, each and every one is conglomerate of clans, ethnic groups, like Arabs, Kurds, Turkmens, and so forth, religious groups, Muslims, Christians, Yazidis, Alawis, Druze, and many others, which are in the Middle East, and sectarian groups, Sunnah, Shia, and many others. And this is actually what makes them unstable to a degree which we see the bloodbaths in Iraq and Syria, Yemen, Libya, Sudan, and potentially Lebanon as well. Because this is what happens in the Middle East when you create a state with many groups which never become one nation, never merge into each other, keep their culture and hate each other, as we see in Syria, in Iraq, in Yemen. That's why they fight each other so viciously and so bloodthirstily, I would say. And this is roughly the Middle East, or the reason for the failure of the failing states, and on the other side, the success of the successful state, that they are homogeneous, and each and everyone belongs to one clan. The Palestinian society is very clannish, and if you create a Palestinian state, united Palestinian state, you are getting another Syria or Iraq, inevitably, because this is what happens everywhere in the Middle East. I came out with a plan to establish Emirates based on the clans. because this is the only thing which works in the Middle East. An emirate in Shechem, Nablus, for the clans of Nablus, the Masri, Tukan, and Shaka. Another emirate in Ramallah for the Barghoutis. Another one in Tulkarem for the Karmis. Another one for the Arikat in Jericho. Another one for the Hebronis, which are 5 clans which live together very nicely. And Gaza is also clannish society. Until the war, I talked about Gaza as one unit. Now Gaza should be divided to 5 emirates based on the districts which are there for many years, and take in account the clannish map of Gaza, assuming that the people come back to the places which they lived until the war erupted. And this is the only solution which can sustain, because this is the only solution which is connected to sociology. While when you ignore sociology and you establish a state according to all kinds of ideas which are imported from the West, like socialism as the Ba'ath parties in Syria and Iraq, or nationalism as in Egypt or other countries, it fails in the Middle East. Only the clan system, which is alive and kicking in the Middle East, this is the only thing which can be relied on. And this is why those who really understand the Middle East really know that this is the only solution which can be implemented on the ground. Recently, here in Israel, people started to understand this system, because any other ideology, whether the PLO ideology, the nationalistic ideology, or the Islamic ideology, which is represented by Hamas, are both against the mere existence of the state of Israel, even if Israel was on a square centimeter on the seashore of Tel Aviv. The PLO wants to eradicate Israel, as shown very well in this map. And this is the PLO flag. And this is what they want. This is what they dream about. This is what they plan. They never agreed to the existence of the state of Israel, milechatchila, only b'diavad, only post factum. They agree as long as Israel is strong. What they will do to us if they feel that we are not strong, we saw it on October 7th. This is why for us, it doesn't really make a difference if people will slaughter us because of the Islamic ideology, or they will slaughter us because of the nationalistic ideology as the PLO represents. And this is why the only emirate solution, which will be in the cities of Judea and Samaria and the 5 districts in Gaza, is the only solution. Israel should remain forever in the rural areas and offer Israeli citizenship to the villagers, which are not a demographic threat on the state of Israel. And Israel should manage its relations with each and every one of the emirates bilaterally forever. And this is the only solution which can be found here in this part of the world. Here is not America, here is not Europe. Here, people are very much loyal to their conservative group, which represents their mindset, their ideology, and their wishes.
Okay, another topic altogether. Someone is asking, don't many Israelis blame Bibi and his intelligence team for the lack of security on October 7? And are they not going to vote for him again?
Dr. Kedar, before you answer, I see Hillel and others. We're not taking questions or verbally. We're asking people to put them in the chat box and send them to Esther. So that's why we're not recognizing hands that are up. So please send your questions to Esther Javits.
Well, what happened in Israel prior to October 7th is that Israel was in the turmoil of the struggle about the judicial system, which I mentioned before. Many in the intelligence, in the Air Force, and in many other parts of the army sided with those who want to perpetuate the hegemony of the left, I would say, represented by the judicial system in this country, although they represent only a minority in the Knesset. As a result of their siding with the left, many of them started to act against Netanyahu, against his government. They excluded him from all kinds of information, including at the night of the assault on us on October 7th. And not only this, many of them, groups of pilots in the Air Force and many other groups in the army, announced in petitions published in the newspapers that they are not volunteering to Miluim, to reserve service, as long as the government tries to change the balance, or to correct, as they, which the government said, the balance between the judicial system and the other parts of authority here in Israel. They published petitions that they are leaving the army, they are not volunteering anymore because of Netanyahu. Our enemies did not understand so much the struggle over the status of the judicial system, but they understood very well those petitions which announced that these people are not coming to reserve service anymore. They understood it very well. And this actually inflated their jihad glands in their bodies. It's encouraged them. Well known is a professor from Weizmann Institute, Shikma Bressler, who actually announced on Facebook, that everybody can read, that in September 2023, there will be no army. That she is responsible that there will be no army. And Israel will be exposed to its enemies. So they took it on face value and they attacked us because there is no army. Okay, afterwards, turned that there is an army. And what happens in Gaza proves that there is an army. But prior to October 7th, they were more than sure that Israel is with no army. Because of these petitions and what Bressler and Ehud Barak, the former prime minister, and other business people who all lean to the left, decided that there is no army anymore in Israel. And they talked about this time and again, and our enemies believed in it. And they attacked us on October 7th. And this actually happened. They excluded Netanyahu from information, and this will be investigated. And look, the head of the Shabak, of the General Security Organization here in Israel, he knew about all kinds of things which should have been an alarm. He knew that at least 300 SIM cards, Israeli SIM cards, were installed in Gaza in the Hamas phone devices. It means that 300 vehicles, at least, are planning invasion into Israel. And this was hours before the attack started. He didn't inform the prime minister. And there were other indications. And the first time which Netanyahu was informed about these things were only after the whole attack started. And this has to be investigated. How come they excluded the prime minister from a very, very indicative information which indicated this attack? Okay, so this was the result of the struggle within Israel, which pushed people to do what they did, and the results are more than clear.
Okay, Another topic, given your suspicion of a Palestinian state, is the answer the legalization of more and more settlement outposts?
The question is what we plan to be the end. If we plan a Palestinian state, which will be on the hill, on all the hills, on all the mountains of Judea and Samaria, definitely these outposts are not only. Most of the, what we call itnachaluyot, most of the Jewish settlements in Judea and Samaria will be wiped out, like more than 500,000 people will have to find another place to live. The Israeli society will not pass it. These are the fighters today in Gaza. And what you're going to tell them tomorrow? Go away from your homes, which they bought on land which was bought, private land. So if we plan a Palestinian state, definitely all these outposts and most of the settlements will be wiped out. However, if we plan the Emirate solution, most of the, if not all of these settlements will remain in their places, and also most of the outposts also will be under Israeli sovereignty. So it all depends on what is planned for the Palestinians. A state which will turn into a Hamastan, or Emirates which will turn into something like Dubai.
Okay, the cantor is asking, do I misunderstand? I heard our speaker suggest that the reaction of the Israeli public to October 7 was an increase in religiosity. That seemed to conflict the idea of Judaism as a religion and Zionism as a political idea. I think that reflects more what the thinking in the States here. Can you explain?
Depends which media, Cantor, you use. If you watch the left side of the political map media, you will hear one thing. If you listen to the right side of the political map media, you will find, or will hear, or you will see other things. As you know, there is no media without agenda. That's why I think it's all media bias. But, you know, the elections in Israel, when will come, will prove what really happened in the Israeli society. Yet, many people, at least here in Israel, are being much closer to the religion, or became much more closer to the tradition, to the religion, because the leftist ideology, which actually led the peace movements, turned to be something which brought the disaster. Look, all those kibbutzim, most of those kibbutzim who were attacked in near Gaza were secular kibbutzim. And not only this, Be'eri was totally to the left. People from Be'eri were going every day to the Erez crossing in order to take Gazans who had treatments in Israeli hospitals, in Ashkelon, in Beersheba, in Tel HaShomer, in many others. They were taking them from the crossing to be treated, waiting for them very lovingly, and bring them back to the crossing to go home. People did it every single day, including Shabbatot, in order to help the Palestinians in Gaza to get cured from diseases and so forth. These people were also murdered on October 7th. Hamas did not discriminate between those who were so merciful, so nice, so helpful to the Palestinians, you know, by ideology. And this, I would say, leftist ideology really got very big blow because of what happened there. They call Be'eri and Nahal Oz settlements. Hamas, and by the way, the PLO as well. They talk about the settlement of Tel Aviv. because there is no difference between Nahal Oz and Be'eri, which are built on a land from 1948, and Yitzhar and Itamar, which are built on a land which Israel acquired, occupied, depends how you look at it, in 1967. Neither Hamas nor PLO, they don't differentiate between both, because Israel, anyway, is illegitimate state. You just have to read the platform of both of them. The basic documents, which are published also in English. The convention of the PLO, convention of Hamas, you can see the same things, that both sides of the Palestinian people do not recognize the legitimacy of the state of Israel to begin with, milechatchila. So this is definitely what pushed many to the right side of the political map.
Okay, another question. Since Jordan is primarily Palestinian, except for Hashemites who rule the country, why then Palestinian not trying to take over that country?
Well, just to demonstrate what you mean, the Hashemites, the Hashemite family is something like 80 or 80-something people. That's all. And they are the rulers, or I would say the house of royalty in Jordan. They rule the minority of Bedouins and the majority of Palestinians. The Palestinians tried to take Jordan over in 1970, 50-something years ago. And the Jordanian army showed them what they can do, slaughtered thousands of them, and crashed this attempt. By the way, it was led by Arafat, who tried to take Jordan over. And the Jordanian ruling family showed them what they know what to do, how they treated them. And the Palestinians, until this very day, did not forget. And this is why they are quiet so far. And what will be in the future, nobody knows, because many thought that the Arab Spring, when it started in 2010 or 11, will also go to Jordan. Yes, it had a beginning in Jordan, but it was crashed by force from the beginning. So, so far, the Palestinians are the economic engine of Jordan. They are the business people. They are the dealers. They are the lawyers. They are the accountants. They are the economy. While the Bedouins are the government, they are the army, they are the police, they are the intelligence. And the government tries to balance between these two components of the society. Yet nobody knows what will be in the future, especially if Jordan falls under the pressure of other powers in the Middle East, like ISIS, which almost happened in 2017. Israel saved Jordan, actually, or the Iranians with their proxies in Syria and Iraq, who will invade Jordan. And again, Israel and other states in the world will have to save the Hashemite kingdom again.
Okay, another question. Someone is asking, the United States warned about Hamas and its plans. Why did Netanyahu's government not take those warning seriously? Is this fact-based? That the United States warned Hamas about Hamas and its plans?
I published in April 2023, like half a year, an article that you can read in English on JNS, a warning that the next war will be multi-front war. Will be with Hamas, will be with Hezbollah, will be with the Iranian militias in Syria, in Iraq, in Yemen. That's what I wrote. You can read it. And it is on the net ever since April 9, 2023. Means like 6 months before. It was known, it was, people talked about this, yet the intelligence discarded all these things because, at least with Hamas, because they claim two things. One is Hamas are confined and deterred. That's what they thought in the intelligence. And the other thing was that if there are preparations to attack Israel from all the fronts together, we will find those preparations and we will be ready to confront them. This is what people in the intelligence thought. However, they failed in expecting what Hamas did, because they think like Israelis, Westerners, liberal people, some would say modernly educated, secular, most of them. They think from their own point of view or from their own binoculars. While Hamas are Islamic, are conservative, are jihadistic, they speak Arabic, not Hebrew, not English, and they are totally different culture of jihadism, which here in Israel people ignored, especially in the intelligence. And intelligence, and I was intelligence 25 years. The intelligence is full of intelligent people. The resemblance, intelligence and intelligence, intelligentsia and intelligence, that's actually the same word. People are very intelligent, yet they fail sometimes to understand that the other side thinks in totally different way. They don't believe. Because you know what? I think the same thing happens in America. Americans tend to think that all the people in the world think like Americans, that everybody wants good life, good income, good car, good family, nice house, and good health, and good education for the kids. And this more or less all the world wants. And this is what many people here in Israel think about the Palestinians as well, ignoring that in Gaza at least, jihad was way much above all the other things. And jihad is against us. And this is another culture. And, in some places when I say, and other Israelis say that Palestinians have different culture, people look at us as bigots, racists, and Islamophobes. Okay, so it's not easy to convince other people that Hamas have different scale of priorities and set of values. And the intelligence did not understand it.
Okay, maybe it will be the last question tonight. An Israeli guy says, you are misinterpreting left and right. Current polls percentages, the center is the largest current, the largest probably portion. Okay, the center. Okay,
Well,
he says if the elections were held today, Netanyahu and Likud will get a fraction of the of the votes. Okay, what do you say about that?
It could very possibly be. This is why there is no elections today. And elections represent the public opinion in the day of the election, not day before and not day after. And this is the system in Israel, maybe in the States as well. However, definitely you're right by saying that many people are disappointed with Netanyahu. Yet, many of those who are disappointed with Netanyahu will vote for Ben-Gvir. Means the far right might get stronger these days. Look, ladies and gentlemen, there is an application which gives like 100 items about Israel every day. It is for free. You can down, and I am for the full disclosure, I'm the vice president of this company, which is called NEWSRAEL. Look at this. This is NEWSRAEL. Please download it to your cell phones and use it. NEWSRAEL. Use it. You can use it for free with advertisements. You can use it without advertisements with subscription. And please use it. And you will learn a lot about it is in English. You learn a lot about Israel, about the security issues, about Hamas, about many classifications which are there, including Ukraine, which has a lot more to do with the Israeli security as well, because of the Iranian participation, both against us and against Ukraine. So, and about Iran, which now started to send troops to Iraq and Syria. And we might hear news about this in the forthcoming days. So this is what I recommend. Please go to NEWSRAEL. The app, it's both for iPhone and Android, and please use it.
Okay, it's about time. Thank you, Dr. Kedar, for giving us knowledge about the political system in Israel. Thank you, Rabbi, for all the work you put into that. And we'll see you all in more programs of adult education. And thank you all.
Thank you, Esther. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you
Kedar.
so much.